Hi, this is Christina from the Tumbleweed Venture YouTube channel, and I have been talking to Jess Baker, also known as the Militant Baker. Jess is an amazing woman who is fighting to promote a more positive approach to bodies, the acceptance of your body, however it is in each moment. She actually gave me permission to use the word fat babes, and I was never able to say the word fat, and Jess has changed my mind and has encouraged me to accept the word fat. Society today is very judgmental against people who are overweight, also known as fat. I dislike any type of judgments that society does against body types, and the media, of course, puts a lot of pressure on women to be a certain way, to mold in a certain shape, and we have been battling with this for centuries. Us women have been taught to be the pleaser, the nurturer, and so we mold into the shapes that society wants us to be. So I refuse that, and I will not fit into this shape. Whatever shape society wants me to fit in, guess what? I am not gonna do that. So I want to thank you, Jess Baker, for teaching me something of huge value today. Here is the interview with wonderful Jess Baker, also known as the Militant Baker. Enjoy! Woo way, baby. To fit in here? Well, you know what? Screw you. Hi everyone, this is Christina Lorefice from the Tumbleweed Venture, and I'm here with wonderful Jess Baker, who's also known as the Militant Baker, right?
Yeah.
And we are in a very special place, which is a clothing optional, help me out.
It's a nudist resort
right?
in Tucson, just
Right.
outside of Tucson.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think it's called Mirasol.
Mirsol, I think it's Mira Vista.
We don't know the name.
Yeah, it's all right. But
It starts with Mira.
Mira, go look it up. Mira in Google.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So, how did you feel here today? Then I'll tell you how I felt.
I loved it, and I think I was surprised by how much people loved to chat with each other and get to know strangers, and I appreciated that too. It was really nice.
Yeah. And so I really want to thank you for allowing me to go in the nude, so to say, because this is my first time where I expose my body in front of strangers, and I want to really acknowledge you, Jess, for helping me out today.
Well, you did it, but that's like a really big deal.
It was
the first time.
It was a big deal, so I'm really happy that
Yeah.
I have you next to me.
And it felt good,
amazing,
right? The
yeah.
water was so nice.
Yes.
The people were nice.
Yes. I felt actually a lot of love from the people. I don't know, but a lot of acceptance.
Yes, very much so. Absolutely.
Right?
Effortless acceptance. Like
Yes.
Very authentic. Yeah.
Totally. Like I felt very liberated, and it's not like this in the outside world.
Not everywhere. No, I think this is a special place.
Yeah. One of the things that I have come across since I'm on a few dating sites, just as for fun most of the time, and also to see who's out there, you know. So I see that on dating sites, a lot of men have demands on women, and so I want to read you one of the emails that I got, and then I want to know your opinion, okay?
Okay.
So this
is all very unexpected. I'm excited.
Okay. This is how it goes.
Okay.
Thanks, Christina. I respect the Italian culture and getting to know you and your passions. Are you affectionate? Sorry for asking about your height and weight. But there are so many obese American women. And then he says to me, 5'6" and slender is acceptable. Right? You want to laugh about it, right? Yeah.
It's his
No,
wording.
it's
That
his
just,
wording.
It could use a little work.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, a lot of work. Do you work out a lot weekly? And I'm like, hell no. I only like independent women. Do you have your own car and apartment? I thought this email is a lot of fun.
And then what did you say?
I didn't respond yet. I wanted to know from you.
Oh.
What would you respond?
I think when it comes to attraction,
Yeah.
we're all allowed to have our preferences.
Yes.
I feel like the way this is worded is incredibly, it's just very egotistical. Just the way he's wording it is very like dehumanizing to you in a way. Like I get that he's maybe trying to be efficient and like, am I even going to be okay with you? But the way he went about it was very poorly articulated. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have this question, you know, like they say, you know, people in fat acceptance, which is the work I do.
Yeah.
Like we keep telling people you have to like and date and have sex with fat women, and that's not what we're saying at all. Like everyone is allowed to have their preferences.
Absolutely.
And that's totally fine. Like we all have different things. The unfortunate part is that there's so many people out there who do love diversity in bodies but are afraid to say it or
Yes,
admit it
yes.
or just don't feel like they can talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, we do label those people as fetishists sometimes, or that there's just something wrong with them. So there's a lot of stigma for people who enjoy fat bodies in their partners physically too.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think it's really complicated.
Very.
This I would not answer to.
No.
It sounds like there's a little too much very specific criteria, and he doesn't really like obese American women, and
To me, that's a no, right?
that's
away.
a red flag.
I'm like, totally red flag. I
Like
think,
he doesn't need to like them, but he could have asked about your height and weight without putting that
I know why to put that.
dig in the American
Yeah.
women that are fat. So
Terrible. It's a
Yeah.
judgment. So to me,
Yeah.
he's going in the garbage right away. And to me, this guy has huge potential to be abusive.
you would know that better than me. I think that you have more experience with that.
Yeah.
You'd have to meet him to know.
No, I'm not gonna meet this guy for sure.
Well, he's missing out. Should have written a better email.
Yeah, asshole. Sorry.
Yeah.
Jess Baker is a motivational speaker, an author, right?
Yeah.
And an activist of the body positive movement.
I've transitioned from body love to body liberation because
like
I
that.
feel like that is more inclusive of all of the different intersections that we find when we talk about bodies. And also it doesn't place, can I tell you about this really fast?
Please.
So body love I talked about for years. That's kind of how I started. But I found that when we obsessively try and love our bodies, it's still the same kind of obsession as when we used to obsessively hate our bodies.
Yeah.
And we feel like through this body love messaging that I used to promote, and I don't anymore because I've learned better, and I wish I knew this earlier, but I had to go through a lot of years to learn this. When we focus so much on love, it doesn't create space for actual liberation.
Yes.
And we're like taught, you know, like here are the signs of loving your body, and we feel like we want to achieve those, and it's really hard because it's ingrained on us on a cellular level. You know, the shame and the trauma and all of that. And so when we don't hit those markers of love, then we feel worse about ourselves.
Yes.
And so liberation for me is very open-ended, and it also acknowledges that it's an internal thing, and that, you know, we live in a society that is oppressive and does oppress marginalized bodies. It marginalizes and oppresses bodies of color, fat bodies, disabled bodies, aging bodies, and we can love the fuck out of ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And that's not going to change the outside oppression. So this liberation kind of also brings that into the conversation, which I think is really important because we cannot, like, we're not having a personal failure if we get down every time we go to the doctor and they shame us, because that's a systematic issue that we can't control in that moment.
No.
So it feels a little more real to me,
Yeah.
and it feels a little more open for people to interpret it their way, which is how I feel this journey should go.
Yeah.
There were two things that struck me recently, And one, I was having a conversation with Dana of Be Nourished, and she does clinical training for weight neutrality within doctors and clinical environments. So really, she's really cool. It's called Be Nourished. And she said, we were talking about eating routines, and she said normal eating is relative and flexible. And it depends on the person, and it ebbs and flows. And some days you need food to sedate, and some days you need food for other things, and you need it less, and you need it more, and like it just ebbs and flows, and that's the way it's different for every person.
Absolutely.
And also, my therapist, these both happened the same day, so it was like a brain explosion. We were talking about this obsession with like creating a perfect something. And when you do that, you are everything around, so this is the obsession, we are missing out on. We're missing out on all
Everything,
of this.
yes.
So when you let go and you say, okay, everything's relative,
Beautiful.
nothing is wrong, nothing is right, you're able to just see so many more options. And I have found a lot of empowerment in that in ways I haven't before. So there's my little spiel.
Yeah, I like that. I think, you know, that the most difficult thing for humans is to let go.
Oh yeah.
So I think, in essence, really, in my experiences, whatever the issue is, it's irrelevant. It's all about letting go.
But that's the scariest thing to us. We were just talking about unknowns.
Yes.
And that's, you know, things that we don't understand often inspire fear, which sometimes turns into hatred, sometimes turns into violence, and like it's a very dangerous road.
Very, very.
So we often don't maybe handle it the best way.
Yeah.
I struggle to leave things open. I like
To know.
I'm a black and white thinker. I have to kind of fight that. So the gray is very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Do you feel that, like, if somebody has some serious, you know, body image issues, you think that attracts domestic violence?
Wow, that's a very big question. I don't know if I am qualified to answer that, actually. Here's what I do know. So when I was training in mental health for a few years, my boss would always, who was my mentor, and she's just brilliant, very holistic, wonderful way of working in mental health. And she would say sick attracts sick, and then on, you know, the other side, well attracts well. So basically what she was saying is we kind of attract people at where we are. That's how we connect. It's like we're on the same level in some way. So I think that, you know, people who have lowest self-esteem do stay longer in abusive relationships. That's statistically proven. So I don't want to say too much about it because this is not my field of expertise. But I would imagine that being taught that you're not enough your entire life and developing that self-esteem, knowing what you're worth, what you think you're worth, right? And then finding somebody who matches that, I can see probably a correlation. What do you think? I think you know much more about this than I do.
When we have a lower value of who we are mostly to tolerate some behavior that's not acceptable because we feel little. So if somebody comes and belittle us, it's okay because I already feel little. So it's kind of like a...
That was your experience.
Right,
Also, you know, I think for better or for worse, our comfort zones can be very toxic and harmful for us. If we grew up in a really traumatizing environment, that trauma is comfortable. And so sometimes it's harder for us to break out of those cycles than it is to stay in them as painful as they are.
It's what's familiar, isn't it?
It is.
We get used to it, and
we understand it. We know how to survive in it.
You know, society and media puts a lot of pressure on changing us and fixing us, you know, specifically with body image, that they make you believe that we're never good enough. There is always that ideal, perfect woman there. And how do you feel this is going to change? Is there hope? Please tell me there is hope.
Oh, God. These are hard questions. You have good ones. I already see a change. I don't know if I love the way that change is going.
Oh, yeah?
So it's kind of complicated. I think social media and blogs and platforms and what they're now calling influencers, people who have a large following online, are really dictating a lot of what the media used to dictate, right? So and companies are looking to us for trends and all of that.
Yes.
And so that's happening. So I think that, there's a lot of visibility that can happen within Instagram, and Facebook and all those social media platforms, but we still see the same exclusivity because the preferred body types will always rise to the top because they will always be more palatable and more popular. And so still the marginalized voices get drowned out. And I'm a perfect example of that. Like, the reason that I am successful in blogging is because when I started blogging, I had a more hourglass shape. I was a white woman who had some education. I knew how to take photos and write, and that was enough. And I fit enough into the plus size. I was definitely plus size, but I wasn't too different, I was still palatable to enough people that wanted to listen.
Right.
And the fatter I get as I am figuring out my life and my relationship with my body and food and movement and all of that, I've gained a lot of weight since I've stopped dieting. I've seen the change in reactions to me too. In person, people really, this trope of, we believe in the media, they portray characters, fat people, in about 16 different ways, but there's 3 very popular ones. If you think of cartoons or movies or like just characters, not real people, but characters, they're either fat and stupid, or they're fat and funny, or they're fat and evil. And so this is kind of the context in which we're able to like process fat people. And so stupid is really ableist, and so I really need to find another word, but this is what people really do apply to fat bodies. And so the fatter I get, the less people believe me, and it's really interesting. And so we have a lot of work to do, and that's my very privileged voice. Not, we're not even mentioning all of the other people who have intersecting identities around bodies who don't even get the platform that I do. So lately, I've been writing my book. I've been very, my brain has been, it was maxed daily. So I didn't have a lot to offer people. So it was kind of, my social media was kind of a journal of my life. But now that I'm getting back into it, my role I see here is to be myself and to document what I do, because that serves me. I love having a scrapbook, and also to amplify voices that are saying things that are more marginalized, that are not being heard by larger media publications. Because I have that platform because of my privilege.
Absolutely.
So they're saying it. They're smarter than me. They know way more than I do. And so amplifying that so that they get this platform as well. It's kind of where I'm going with my social media.
Yeah. How do you feel about ageism? I'm, 50 something, and there's a lot of pressure on women not to age and look beautiful and put all these creams that make you look 10 years younger and color your hair. And the reason why I decided to wear a scarf is because I don't want to color my hair anymore. How do you see yourself aging, and your views on aging?
Well, when I wrote my first book, I thought that women who were aging grew wise to the beauty myth bullshit. And I was like, they must not have any problems. It was very naive thinking, but I was just like, I haven't seen that. They must catch on, and that's why we don't hear about it. But it's not true, and there's so much research done that it gets twice as hard for women who age, because not only are you dealing with the sizest bullshit, your weight and your size, but you're also dealing with this thing that will inevitably happen to everyone. And your body will change, and it will look different. So they have that combined, and so they really are struggling twice as much. So that is something that we don't really touch on a lot, do we? Because the people who are running social media pages are young. They're the millennials. They're the tech people. They're me. They're all of those younger people. So that's really interesting. I only know of one person that is Batty Winkle.
Oh yeah, I love her.
Who comes
Come
to
on,
mind?
Batty.
And
You're next.
she's rocking the social media platform.
is.
But yeah, I think that's a place where we need to do a lot more work.
Right?
I'm going to remember that. Thanks for bringing that back to my attention.
Yeah.
And I think aging too is like a really interesting concept. I'm watching my mom go through this. Her body's changing, and when I gained weight, I realized my mom was also dealing with body changes that had more to do with age than anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is the first change of many changes. Like, my body will forever be changing.
Yeah.
And I can't look at this as good or bad. I just have to be like, this is my body now. And then you deal with behaviors and, you know, happiness in life and like taking care of yourself, whatever that means to you. It's different for everyone. So that was a really good lesson of like, this will only continue as I hit 40, 50, 60, you know, so it's gonna, my body will always be changing.
Weather changes and we change, and somehow I feel society wants to stop you from changing and aging. Well, it can happen, you know, so
well, that was brilliant on their part,
right?
Because everyone ages.
Yeah.
So the anti-aging stuff will always be applicable as long as people want it.
Yeah. What do you think about the diet industry then, you know, dieting and all that?
It's a $60 billion industry in the US.
Yeah.
And I think it's shifting into wellness culture, to yoga, clean eating, raw, paleo. It's the same obsession.
Yeah, I'm glad you're saying it.
It just looks different. Because it's not about well-rounded holistic health. It centers around the performance of wellness. There was this really fascinating article about the 1800s and how people would perform certain things for the community so they knew that they were superior, and how people doing yoga in the parks is not much different. And we've been continuing, it just looks very different.
It's so true.
But it's a performance.
So
and
true.
when it's a performance for others, I feel like that's kind of where we're missing the mark. And so a lot of people will probably tell you that I'm anti-gym, and I think everyone should be fat forever and eat donuts every day. And if you want to, you totally can. This is your life. We get one life. But that's not my message at all. My message is health looks so different for so many people.
Yeah.
And when we talk about wellness culture, it usually includes expensive items. You need to be able to afford to go and practice this wellness culture and afford, you know, like we're dealing with people in poverty and food deserts who can't even get fresh vegetables because they don't live near them and they have no option to participate in any wellness culture whatsoever, and then we punish them for this life and body they were born into. And so I just feel there's a lot of problems around that. I think if people are doing it for themselves because they feel like it's right, and not judging other people because of it. I mean, do you, as long as it doesn't harm other people. I wanna believe that there's a lot of people out there who do it for really hyper aware reasons that are wonderful. And I'm sure there are. I just think that judging by the amount of advertisements I see, the exclusivity of gyms and yoga places and other, you know, just like the way it's presented is very exclusive on purpose because they want you to be part of the elite wellness groups. And that's where the currency lies right now. But you have to be wealthy to do that. You can't have mental health problems that make it, you know, people who can't get out of bed because they have mental health issues. Sure, endorphins would be great for them, but they can't even get out of bed. How are they supposed to go, you know, go to a dance class or participate in physical activity? So we're kind of not looking at the whole picture when we talk about these things are good for you, do them all, you will feel good. That's not an option for everyone. Some people, I think the goal for everyone in this world is to survive and find as much happiness as possible. And for some people, that world is not going to give them that. Like, their survival is getting through the day and, you know, finding the happiness that they can within their life. And it gets really complicated. So it's hard to paint anything with one brush stroke.